Let's check that.
I'm gonna go to 60.
Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. I am back with Mr. Jamal Brazil. We're back
What's
in the
up, everybody?
house for motivation and conversation. We appreciate all of you who chimed in last week. And for those of you, of course, many of you that watched the replay. So we're going to kind of just chop it up here for a minute and give you an opportunity to kind of get in. We're going to get on here so that we can see what's happening. We can engage with you. Listen, this is an engaging platform. We want to, hear your comments or see your comments and definitely any questions you may have. Uh, Mr. Bazile is an open book, right? So he'll take
Yes,
any
ma'am.
questions you may have.
Give me your
So
best.
definitely, absolutely, absolutely. We want to make sure that we address any questions. Um, but here again, just want to say thank you for chiming in. This is a real organic kind of platform. Um, Normally, when I'm on the platform by myself solo, I'm just talking about whatever is pertinent to me at that time, giving content on it, my take on it, my opinion about it, and just have a conversation. And so it's the same thing with this platform. And this series we're in is called uh, Relationship Frustrations. And so last week, I just want to kind of recap for a little bit. Last week, we talked about one of Mr. Bazile's entries in his new project, Engineered Muse, where he lent 9 whole pages to the topic of the program of frustration. So, and then with this overall project being about relationships, we kind of thrust it into that conversation of the different types of frustrations that come along with relationships, with being single, divorced, married, whatever that may be. I've had the pleasure of being both, all three, single, divorced, and married. And Mr. Jamal is working on the singlehood right now. He's working on the singlehood. So for those of you that are chiming in with us, will you do us a favor and will you share this? Share it and let people know that we are live and to join the conversation. And then we want to encourage you to definitely jump in this chat, talk to us, let us know what your thoughts are. If you have questions, of course, it's a little bit delayed. And so we may get it a minute or so after you've entered it in, but we'll both be kind of eyeing on that chat and keep an eye on it. And we will get your question and or will um highlight your comment for tonight. So listen, share, 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 let people know we're on. If you missed it last week, definitely go back and watch the replay
Yes.
and put some comments in there. Let us know. Send us some questions. So, we're building the conversation. Listen, we're taking it as we go. It's organic, right? So I
Yes.
want to start out, Jamal. Last week we had gotten in pretty heated conversation. We may
Yes.
have to do the afterglow tonight, but we had gotten to this point where we were talking about where we felt like there was some neglect from the church, and
Mhm.
how we were taught to refrain from relationships, refrain from sex, that kind of thing, no fornication, da 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 blah blah blah, hellfire and brimstone. However, they failed to tell us why that was so important. Hey Tiffany, good to see you back on tonight. So they failed to talk to us about why that was essential, why was it important. And so we started to talk about this whole purity piece. And what I thought was um, super dope is, as the young people say, I'm young too, but what was super dope about that was that you made this quick comment about men need to have purity too.
Yes.
And so let's jump in back. Let's just pick up where we left off. because so much
Yeah.
attention is given to the young lady. So much
Right.
attention is, if she gets pregnant, she's the one that more or less, is demoralized. And, she's the one who has to apologize and go before the church. But, the young man's nowhere to be found, or the man, period, is nowhere to be found. Nobody asked about him. What was his part or his role? And
Well, we know
so,
his role.
yeah, we know what he, well, I ain't gonna go there. I ain't gonna say that. But anyway,
We know what he did.
yeah, we know what he did. So, but where is he? So, it's always had this kind of, one-sided perspective. So let's jump in right there, because you went into a little bit of some dialogue there about this conversation of purity and the neglect that the church is just not taking the time to really teach on this subject matter, especially in depth. It's grazed over.
Definitely. So the purity piece, and I made the comment about men, because you don't normally hear it. We hear
Yeah.
women stay pure and purity for women. And guys just get to go out here and just slang wherever, however, whenever. Um, and in my mind, my brain always goes to, we're perpetuating the lack of responsibility that men should have,
Mm-hmm.
because in the beginning, God
Mm-hmm.
created heaven, earth, and he created man, and he gave
Mm-hmm.
man responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But society, again, see, I'm talking about the second book already, Miss Muses. The engineered ruse that
Mm-hmm.
Satan is perpetuating is, no, you have no responsibility. You can just do you. You can do whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want. You can do your thing. There is no responsibility. When in all actuality, um, our consequences, especially to male actions and decisions and indecisions, are generational. You look
Mm-hmm.
at all the patriarchs, Abraham,
Mm-hmm.
Isaac, and Jacob. That thing went on for generations. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Jacob was a trickster, his
Yep.
dad, his sons, like it went on and on and on. And so
Mm-hmm.
our decisions affect the world. And my favorite example is Adam and Eve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eve did some stuff, you know, use her superpower of influence. I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, I believe the first fruit, we always say apple. I believe it was a chocolate covered strawberry because that's sexy, right? And
Not chocolate covered strawberry.
that's just where I am. I just feel like that's the only way you can get a man to disobey God himself. So,
Oh
um,
God.
Eve ate the fruit, nothing happened. Adam ate,
Yeah.
and the entire creation fell, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
need to start teaching our young men purity. Yes,
Because the
be pure.
responsibility was on him.
The responsibility is on you. So when you start living that, you start teaching that, and that's what you accept. And that's what you start preaching. And now our
Mm-hmm.
songs change from be half naked, booty clapping, to I want this woman who is pure, who is sanctified, who is this, who is that. Um, One of the things I struggle with a lot in church is the baby dedications, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are so many baby dedications where I see the mom, the grandma, the grandfather, the uncle, but there's no daddy up there.
Yep.
So what are we dedicating? Why is this okay? Why is there no conversation about, hey, there's responsibility, right? We're dedicating babies to a livelihood of living
Mm-hmm.
for Christ, right? We're going to teach them.
Yep.
Do we know that the parents are Christians? Because
Yeah. Do we know?
do we know? Because I mean, then the parents have to teach the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not teaching the kids, what are we doing out here? And yes, mistakes happen, we slip, we fall in life and all that. But again, that teaching beforehand, living and setting that example. We got homosexual relationships in church right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over Facebook. It's
Mm-hmm.
all over Instagram. And nobody says anything. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying, Tiff knows I already went into, we had this conversation. I'm not saying harp on anyone.
Right.
Homosexuality is sin. Fornication is sin. All these
Mm-hmm.
things are sin, but we got to talk about it. This is
Yeah.
a sin because it is against the will of God. Like,
Mm-hmm.
stay away from these things because this is how it perpetuates throughout your life. And it'll put you in a bad spot.
Oh, for sure. But a couple of things. So number one, I think that we have gotten to a place where we just don't value relationships um in their truest form. We've gotten so far from the institution, of marriage and that whole structure that God instituted in the beginning
Mm.
and its purpose. And then we get outside of our roles, right?
Mhm.
So, men are wanting to be women, women are wanting to be men. We're totally, off kilter about, who we're supposed to be. We don't understand our purpose. We're not clear. Um, Here again, um, I have, no problem with people making their choice. That's their choice. But at the end of the day, either we're going to stand for something or fall for everything and
Yes, ma'am.
anything. And
Didn't Martin
you
say that?
have
Shout out to
you
Martin.
we have to, we have to, and I can love you and not not agree. I can agree
Right.
to disagree. I just don't agree. That ain't my lane. That ain't, I don't believe that. That's not my thing. And sometimes we're even afraid to say what we believe. What
Yeah. Yeah.
and so as a result of that, it gets watered down more and more and more and more and more. So here again, relationships get watered down more and more and more and more. So there's no real consensus for commitment, right?
Yeah.
There's no true, there's this going in knowing I can get out,
Yeah.
or finding a reason to get out, but there's no endurance, And so I think that's one of the things, and I've talked about this, and I talk about this in my book where I talk about broken relationships of a leader.
Mm.
My ex and I were both in ministry, and how we were so engulfed in that process of ministry that the natural relationship was not nurtured.
Mm.
And so,
Mm.
we have these two different perspectives of how we manage and how we balance relationships. So either we go all the way to the left or we go all the
Mm.
way to the right. And then we have the middle ground where when you don't nurture the natural needs to be nurtured. And
Yes.
when you
Yes.
don't when
Yes.
you don't nurture the natural relationship, that's conversation, that's sex, that's intimacy, that's all, and intimacy and sex are two different things.
Yes.
So when you don't nurture all of these things, there is an imbalance. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you can go, 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 go. It's like, a person can run, 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 run. And when they finally stop, they're out of breath. But while they're running, it's like they don't even realize that you are soaking up everything.
Everything.
And
Mm.
so it's the same thing with relationships. And so we have these components that fall into that, and nobody's trying to maintain the purity, back to our point of topic that we started off with. And then nobody's supporting that as it relates to giving the content and the details around that, and
So,
bringing it back into alignment.
so jumping back, I love that. Jumping back to the purity piece. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of people,
Yeah, Tiff is saying,
yeah.
yeah, influenced by the word. Absolutely.
Oh
Because
yeah.
we want everybody to be comfortable.
Well, not yeah, that
Everybody,
and
we want everybody to be comfortable, and we don't want nobody complaining and frowning, and,
we also want government funding too. So,
yeah.
you
But
know,
here's the deal. It used to be
mm,
uncomfortable all the time.
yeah,
That was the whole point of it. We were made to be uncomfortable.
that's how you
Grandmama
grow.
made you uncomfortable, right?
Oh yeah.
So if you came in the house late on Saturday night, use a little tips, so well, go and get you some coffee because you're going to church now. So you in there feeling some kind of way, you in church, right?
And the
But that was the
pastor,
kind of uncomfortability that helped us to, have a fear of God, and
oh yeah,
not a fear of God in a way that we're afraid to,
reverence. There's a
reverence him.
reverence.
But that was a reverence for God. That was a honoring him, and I want to please God. So I want to do what's right,
And
So
so going back to purity, like one of the things I want to make sure because we get stuck on just sexual purity, right?
hmm
Which is a major thing, and I don't want to discount that because
right.
that is the battle of our culture. right?
Mm-hmm.
Sexuality, sex is everywhere. Um, but there's also purity in your heart, purity
Yep.
in your mind, right? Um,
Absolutely.
those things are important because
And your thoughts, just
like
your
it
thought
starts right
process,
here. It starts
your
right here.
thought process.
And I want to
Yeah.
jump on this because this comes up a lot. Uh, I need the ladies to help a brother out. Help a brother out. Like there are some things, come on, you should not be wearing because it's not helping us. All
Because
right.
it ain't helping y'all.
It's not helping. And it's like, well, he need to learn how to control himself. Yeah, yeah, I do. But when you showing me all the juicy fruit, I'm like, I'm alive and breathing, like I'm not dead. You
So
walking
true.
up on the cry
Absolutely.
stand and I can see all your cheeks.
Yep.
Help us out. That's all I'm saying.
Decent and in order. What happened to it?
Right. And so,
Some things are
well,
just not necessary.
this is what I'm comfortable in. You're not comfortable in that because you could barely walk in them heels.
That part.
Like,
And this is the thing. You know when you on either side, if your pants too tight, whatever, you know it's too tight before you leave home. If you got to adjust it 12 times before you leave home, then you knew before you left the house.
look, if you got to
Which is
jump,
why
if you got to jump to get in it,
not, not jump.
if you keep pulling it down, it probably don't fit you.
And this is another thing. This is why I'm so glad that my team has a fashion and image coach. Oh my God. When I tell you I could have hit the roof when she was talking about some of these things that we do, that's just, I mean, from these, I'm a natural kind of girl.
Mhm.
But I mean, and I ain't got nothing against makeup and all that. Love it. I mean, I just don't wear a lot of it. But these windshield wipers on our face,
Oh yeah,
but when
yeah.
she talked about hiding your eyes, what are you hiding behind? Oh
Woo.
my God.
That's deep.
That was
That's
deep.
deep.
It was deep. And
Eyes are the
even
windows to
down
the
to,
soul.
yes, even down to the nails, even about the undergarments. It don't matter what size you are. And in these days, I'm just like, oh my God, whatever happened to just, I mean, even guys with t-shirts, we just lost some things. And granted,
So
I understand that times change, but there are some things that just are just to me that grounds us, right,
right.
and that gives us a structure as individuals and as people.
So it's interesting. I love that you said that because I'm gonna touch on what Tiffany said and a couple of things. Times change, but there's nothing new under the sun. All this stuff
Uh-huh.
has been done. We have
That's right.
watched civilizations fall. Rome fell because of
Yeah.
the same stuff we're doing right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this influence from outside that is
Mm-hmm.
consuming the church, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I am a major gospel hip hop fan. So like
Mm-hmm.
people that know me know every album, basically every artist, I know, I love the songs. It speaks to a generation. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's taking the world. No, sweetheart, that's a genre of an art form. When I
Mm-hmm.
talk about adopting the things of the world, it's when we stop speaking up about the things that are wrong. We
Mm-hmm.
start conforming. Yes, I 100% believe, I will go on the record to say it right now, that there are
Mm-hmm.
gender roles. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Like
Absolutely.
straight up, the day I
God
get
wasn't
married,
confused.
that
He wasn't confused. He never has been.
there is an order. Oh, and so I'm giving them the next book already. So, and this is, I want to drop this here because this is the proof, this is the evidence. And I found it. I was reading, was it Peter or it's Corinthians? I'll figure it out later. So, as I was reading the Bible, it talked about how Jesus comes in, brings everything under his dominion, right? This is kind of like the last days, right? And after everything is subject to him, he then offers this to God the Father,
Mm-hmm.
submits it to him. And then it talks about how God the Father and Jesus sends the Holy Spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But none of the three are greater than the other.
Mm-hmm.
There's just an administrative order.
Mm-hmm.
And that's God does things in three, the Trinity thing. So
God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit.
the Trinity for the family is God, husband, wife.
hmm
That's the
hmm
administrative order. It
hmm
Nobody is more important than anybody as far as a husband and a wife.
hmm
God is the center of it all.
hmm
There's just an administrative order, right?
It's a
Because
straight
there
three
has to
strand
be.
cord.
There has to be. And so there's this fight now. Again, worldly influence. You look at the church, most leadership members actively involved are women, right?
hmm
God said, I will have the rocks cry out. I'm not mad at a woman preaching. I'm not
hmm
mad at a woman leading. The problem
hmm
becomes when it's all women. You got
Yeah,
one or two
you
guys.
have pockets, and you have areas and you have geographical locations where that is definitely the case.
Yes,
And it's
ma'am.
predominantly women. And when I got to Dallas, I was surprised. I mean, it was a great surprise to see 50% men in a church
Oh, that's
because I
beautiful.
had not seen that. I mean, I had not seen that ever. You hear me?
So,
And so it's a wonderful thing to behold and to partake of and you have a lot of men in leadership.
mhm.
But it's true for a lot of our areas, especially a lot of our small areas, a lot of our small Black communities. The churches are predominantly, female. And here again, it's one of those things where there's an imbalance,
We're
you
running
know.
from responsibility.
It's an imbalance. And because 9 times out of 10, there's got to be somebody that's willing to, stay the course. And of course, our Black women, that's what they do. We stay the
Yeah.
course, we hang in there, but that's why, for me, men have to have vision again. They have to, they got to dream again, they got to see
Mhm.
themselves in these, responsible roles and starting with the relationships, you
Yes.
know, and how we orchestrating it, how we initiating that. One of the things that, one of the areas that you wrote in um, Engineered Muse was about friendship.
Mm.
And
Yes.
I'm shifting here a little bit, but you know, that used to be somewhat, well, you can't be friends, and then it got to a place that that's all
Hmm.
some
Yeah.
people want to do is just be
Just be
friends,
friends. Yeah. Yeah.
and friends, friends with benefits,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's, one of the things I wanted to ask, and that is, um, according to what you wrote, what would you say is the foundation of friendship, and why is it described as the progeny of respect?
So I'm gonna start with that piece. Friendship is, I believe wholeheartedly that you can't be friends with somebody unless there's something about them that attracts you, something that you respect about them, right? Like I can tell
Mm-hmm.
you, Tiffany Farrell and I are friends. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things I love about Tiffany is there is no fluff.
Mm-hmm.
She gonna tell you whatever you did, or if that outfit looks ridiculous, she gonna let you know. It ain't no fluff
Mm-hmm.
with Tiff.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I respect that because so many people, when they speak, they try to say what they think you want to hear, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not helping me,
Mm-hmm.
right? You need to tell me the truth. I need that outside perspective. And so I believe to be friends with someone, there is something that is attractive to you, personality. It could be something as little as a smile. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but that builds that respect. That's where that respect comes from. There's something about this person that I admire. So I want to learn from them, glean
Mm-hmm.
from them in some way.
Their character,
Character.
the character of individuals, your moral compass. Um, I have a friend, we've been friends for um goodness,
You're thinking.
almost 30 years. I have several friends that I've been friends with for 30 plus years.
That's beautiful.
And um honest, I'm able to be myself. I'm able to be honest with them. They're honest with me. And, the respect comes when I can be totally honest with you and we don't fall out,
Yeah.
right? And you understand my position and you understand my perspective. I have a male friend I've been friends with for 35 years. My son is 35. My oldest son is 35. We've been friends for as long, well, really before that. So it's been longer than that, probably 40 plus years because I knew this person prior to my son. Um, and it's one of those things. And right to this day, I hear from this person pretty much every day. And so,
That's
when
beautiful.
you build relationships, uh, based on friendships where there's trust, there's honesty. This person has your best interest at heart because they were big enough, they were man or woman enough to be honest with you
Yeah.
and love you still. To me, that's something truly strong. The other thing about friendships I want to ask, because sometimes there are a lot of times we get into relationships strictly on lust, strictly on what we see, strictly on what the eye beholds, and there's no ability to communicate. To me, the communication leads to the intimacy of the
Yes.
relationship before
Yes.
sex even becomes a part of it. Hey, Evangeline, thanks for joining. Um, so, how important is the communication
In a friendship,
in a friendship?
I would
For the
say,
purpose in a friendship for relationship, because they kind of flow
oh
together.
yeah, so friendship should be your basis,
Basis, absolutely.
because the reality of it is, I'm gonna use myself for example. The woman that the Lord, I don't know what he gonna do to her to have her deal with me, is going to have to be my friend first, because there's gonna be time she gonna get upset about some stuff. I can
Oh,
tell you right now,
absolutely,
right? So
absolutely.
there comes a time in a relationship, a romantic relationship, even dating, and then you go to marriage, where you be like, yo, I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to be around this person right now. And you could storm out. You, but if I'm friends with you,
Hmm.
when the butterflies go away,
Come on, come on. That's what I'm trying to get to right there. Because
when
I
the
got a
but
scenario.
when cute and cuddly goes away,
Listen,
and I sure enough want to punch a hole in the wall,
yeah,
it's gonna be like, hold up. Like, I gotta talk to you real quick.
friendship is so important. Um, when you decide to, and this happens, before I go here though, yes, Tiffany,
Tim,
absolutely.
I love
Value
Tim.
it, yes, value intellect. Because listen, this goes into the whole communication piece of being free. Because if you can't have a conversation, we we can't even have a conversation. So I have seen and experienced this. You got a man will marry a woman based totally on the looks, the eye, what
100%.
the eye beholds, all that, and can't have a conversation with her. Why are
Hey,
you
Miss
with her?
Tasha.
Why are you with her? And vice versa.
So
I don't want anybody, man. Oh man, I can't sit and have a conversation with.
so we with her for dessert. People live for dessert.
Listen, here's okay. Sex. Maybe I'm gonna give you this a long stretch, 1 hour out the day. What you gonna do with them other 23 hours?
So here's the thing,
What you gonna do with these other 23 hours?
this
There
is
is
my
more
thing
to a
though.
relationship. That's why I said we got to raise our level of mentality, how we think about relationships, you know, um, how we converse, how we communicate. Because it happens, it's still happening. You got old men, young men. This is still the issue, and your vocabulary is, huh? What? That's it. You can't have a conversation about any topic that's going
You
on.
can't
What's happening
grow.
in society? There's no at the end of the day, I don't care what they say. Give me a cybersexual any day. I need somebody with a brain. We can do some stuff. We can talk about some things. We can grow. We can partner. We can do business. I mean, it's just like, why? Why do people do it? Why they
I
do it?
I really so oh man, I don't know if you remember this conversation we were having while you were pulling me through this book process. And you kind of asked like, okay, what are you looking for in a
Uh-huh.
woman?
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so I stick with that because, you know, a lot of times you hear people say, well, I'm looking for somebody who's funny and smart and all those things are cool. But
Mm-hmm.
I told you, I used a basketball example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the point guard, right? As a man, I'm the point guard. I'm bringing the ball
Mm-hmm.
down the court. I'm
Yeah.
capable of shooting. Um, I can run, I can score, I can do all these things. What I need is a shooting guard who is
There you go.
flexible, who can
Mm-hmm.
read me and know,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Jay's tired, let me bring the ball up. And
Mm-hmm.
they know when to score, they know when to step in, they know when to set a pick, they can
Know when to
communicate
take
with
the
me,
shot.
know when to take the shot, right? They
Absolutely.
know, oh snap, let me hang back because they just stole the ball. They playing
Mm-hmm.
defense for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what really you just need somebody with some want to
Absolutely.
try, want to do
Strategy.
better, want to take you both to the fullest that you can be, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of times people are unfulfilled
Mm-hmm.
in life and they're like, oh, I'm not happy in my marriage. It's not your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You're not operating in your purpose because somebody's an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has gotten stuck,
Mm-hmm.
complacent, wherever, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not your marriage that's a problem, it's a lack of fulfillment. And then when you're not
Absolutely.
married, right, we're looking for that same fulfillment and we try all this drugs, alcohol, sex, all this stuff, but it comes down to fulfillment. I keep seeing conversation in the chat, right?
Oh yeah.
um
So this is where I want to here again. Okay, so Tiffany made this comment about knowing when to assist perfectly. I can talk
100%.
basketball all night. I can
Yes,
talk it
ma'am.
all night. So here we go. Here we go. We coming up the floor, right? Well, here's the deal. If there, and this happens with teams all the time, if there's no communication and there hadn't been any intimate time given to plays and possibilities
Mhm.
and talking about, and just understanding the flow of the players and whoever your point guard is or your shooting guard, you need to have a
Yes.
relationship, right? You need to understand each other's flow. You need to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. You need to know when to pivot, right? You
Yes.
need to understand when, okay, well, this team is running this kind of defense. We can't run this kind of offense because
Yep.
that ain't gonna work here. So I'm gonna
Yep.
pivot. I'm gonna come back this way. I'm gonna come back up to the top, and then I'm gonna let you flow back, right? And we're gonna
Mm.
switch places for this particular play. We're not gonna do a three, a 3-1-1. We're gonna do, we're gonna do a 2-1-2
Yeah.
or whatever we're gonna switch up. And then you may have to do a few figure eights to kind of get in position. But at the end of the day, you know how to pivot.
So
And
here's
because you have communication, you got relationship, and that all creates an intimacy in whatever situation there is. And that ain't sexual. That's because you've intricately entered into these conversations and communications
yes.
that's brought you to a place of understanding of that other individual. And it's not
Mm.
opposing understanding, but it's a deep understanding of how they are, who they are, and how they function.
You have to spend deliberate time together. So one of the things you said, and Tiffany hits it for me with the know when
Mm-hmm.
to assist. The
Yes,
problem
yes.
is, just like basketball, we have one person dribbling a million times in a corner,
Right.
right? Trying to do it all
Right.
themselves,
Right, right.
and their partner is over there,
Pass the
they're left
ball.
behind. Pass the
Pass
ball.
the ball. That's
Sometimes,
it.
let me translate this to regular people speak.
Yeah.
Sometimes I may have all this stuff that I want to do as a man. We always talk about a man's vision. You want a man with ambition. Be careful what you ask for,
Mm-hmm.
because a man with ambition will chase that goal going at his own speed, never considering your speed as a woman and the speed of
Mm-hmm.
his family. So he reached the mountaintop and then he looks back and y'all down the road, ankles broke, because no seatbelts were on, no car
Well, see,
seats were
that has
in.
to be balanced. That goes back to
It
communication.
has to be communicated. And
Has to
that
be
means
communication.
you have to sometimes slow up, whether the man or the woman, slow up, check on your team, right? You got to check. This is your squad. Is everybody good? What do I need? What do you need? How am I doing as a husband?
Absolutely. But it goes back to the initial, to the floor, to the foundation. So how do we start this thing? Because see, when you start it off, both parties have to be able to come together, have these conversations. And when you as a man share vision, then that gives the woman the opportunity to say, okay, I'm down with that. I can flow with that. I can do this, this, and this. And this is how I see myself in your vision, a part of your vision. Then that's the man's opportunity to say, oh, cool, snap. We got a plan. We can flow, right? But then if you take off with the vision, you ain't talking, you're not saying anything. She has no idea. And then you take off and you're going 12,000 miles an hour. She's like, oh, I can only go 100. That's all I got. You know,
Yep.
this is my capacity right here. That's why this friendship, this communication, and being able to talk, right? And put forth, and they saying it in the chat,
Deep
deep
understanding.
understanding is key.
Yes.
Not only that, transparent, getting to know one another, and then having the deep conversations. That's the genesis of it all. Absolutely. Because if you don't have that, I'm telling you, know that person's strengths, you know their weaknesses, you know where you fit, you know where you don't fit, you know what you can do, what you can handle, you know your capacity,
Yes.
you know, and
So
so it really gives you a different level of how you're gonna strategize for the common goal of the relationship overall.
so something just popped in my head, right?
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna jump, I'm gonna jump on the guys, the vision, right? You gotta have a vision, ambition, all this stuff. Um, and all that is great. And as you're leading, it's not just about your vision, right? As a man, when you're leading this family to this vision, you also have to know the purpose and the vision of your spouse, because
Mhm,
you have to bring those two things together, because it's
mm,
not just about what you're trying to do with your life. You also have to support the purpose that God put in her as well. And I think a lot of times
mm.
guys, oh, let's go submission. Like the most poisonous word to any woman out there, submission.
Mhm.
Women are like, and guys are like, she not submitting to me. The fact that you saying that like that tells me you don't even understand what that means,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And I think Darius Daniels hit it the best way ever. Submit, sub
Mhm.
and mission. So there is a
Yes,
mission, there's sub, come under mission. That does not mean, women, that you give up your passions, your purpose,
absolutely.
your hopes, your dreams. That is not what that means. That means
Absolutely.
before you say I do, and you're talking to this guy that's
Yeah.
6'4" with muscled and rippled and everything else, and he hitting you with them smooth lines, you need to say, this is what God has placed on my heart.
Mhm.
What has God placed on your heart?
Mhm.
The best example, if if he says, hey, well, I want to, I don't know, start a private school in the United
Mhm.
States,
Mhm.
but you're like, I want to do missionary work in Ghana.
Mhm. So that's a misalignment. So then you got to have a
Mm,
conversation. You
we
got to
got to
have a
have a
conversation.
conversation.
You got to have a
So
conversation. And that
now,
conversation has to be a mature
oh yeah,
conversation. It's
oh,
got
I
to
know
be a
you
mature
fine.
conversation.
I know
Yeah.
you fine, but right now our purpose,
We going in two different
we going
directions.
into. But then he's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, it's cool because I don't mind going to Ghana, and as we dig wells, we could dig wells for communities, and I could do my teaching there. Now you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, 6'4",
Uh-huh.
okay, 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
Now we on the
Mm-hmm.
same train. The problem
Mm-hmm.
is people start compromising what God put in them
Mm-hmm.
because they want what they want. And
Mm-hmm.
now when you start suppressing what God put in you,
Mm-hmm.
it will not work. And God, look, God can redeem any and everything.
Yes, he can.
However, he said, use wisdom.
And
So
that within itself, Jamal, creates an innate
mm,
frustration. It
yes,
creates
ma'am.
a frustration because here, this is what happens. Because so oftentimes, I'm gonna speak for the women, we're desperate, and we may not be desperate to the point that it's an outward desperation, but we desire relationships. And so sometimes some of us are stronger than others, and we will lend to the attention that we're getting from whatever man, whether it's the one that is a part of our purpose or not, or whether or not we totally align, but because we have the attention of a man, we think there's not another man. And
Right.
so we will take that opportunity and waste time, frustrate ourselves. And then 18 months down the road, 6 months down the road, 24 months down the road, it's not gone anywhere. You're more frustrated. Yeah, he may be fine. He may be tall and handsome and all that. He may, make good money, may treat you well, but there is no fulfillment. At the end of the day, if there's no fulfillment in that relationship, there's no peace, which means your relationships are imbalanced and you're not healthy, because that's an underlying stress that will eat away at you slowly and kill you if you allow it.
Yes, ma'am. Ooh,
And so, yes.
I gotta do this because it popped in my head. If you meet this, I'm gonna use the guys. You meet this just beautiful tenderoni,
Hmm.
great personality, all that stuff. If if you have to convince the person to go to church with you, you already stop.
Hmm.
Just stop.
Yep.
Because we're talking about purpose, but that's assuming this person has their own relationship with Christ. So
There's
just
a
for
belief
me,
system that they have,
right?
not one that
I
you
don't
got to
know what
force or
everybody else
create.
doing. I don't know but for me, like, I don't need you to be perfect, but you have to have your own relationship with Christ. If you start coming to church because I'm going to church, nah,
Yeah.
that ain't it.
Well, it's just like it's like grandma used to say, as for me and my house, we serve the Lord. That's what we do over here. So no explanation needed.
So
That means what that means.
you talking about purpose, and this
Hmm.
person don't even have a relationship.
Absolutely. So you
You
can't have it because they clearly probably do not understand who they fully are.
so that is one definition of unequally yoked.
Hmm.
But unequally yoked is so much deeper than just people being just because you're a Christian and I'm a Christian, don't mean we're equally yoked.
Absolutely. And here's another thing that we have to pay attention to. This is a frustration of mine: capacity.
Capacity,
And
capacity.
it took me going through 18 plus years, being divorced, that kind of thing, that the Lord really dealt with me when I was seeking clarity about, what happened, what all happened. I knew of, things that happened that were blatant, right? I could see that. There's
Yeah.
always something else, right? And so sometimes, especially for women, I can't speak for the men, but for women, most in general, there are flags, there are signs, there are warnings, um, that are giving us, our intuition kicks in. And so oftentimes we will allow those things to lie dormant, or we'll just kind of overlook them, and we think that it's going to fix itself. But what I learned is that you cannot create, or I don't care what you do as a woman, you cannot give a person a capacity they do not have. You just can't do it. And so I don't care, at the end of the day, I don't care how fine a woman is or a man is or whatever. If they ain't got nothing in their head, ain't nothing in there. So you can't make it. If they've gone 40, 30, 40 plus years and they've not filled their well with some kind of content, information, knowledge, experiences, you can't make that happen. I don't care what you do. So you have to really be mindful. And when we thinking about what we want, we need to come off of some of these, you know,
Oh, this comment. I gotta hit this comment. Go ahead.
what was this one? What was this one?
The last comment. Mr. Hunter. Well, I think it's Mr. J. Hunter.
Okay. But how do you know that that person wasn't assigned to you? Maybe they start going to church because of you. Some marriages are like that right now. Listen, go ahead, Jamal. Go ahead.
I, Tiffany, this is what
They could be
So
assigned as a friend. You can minister to someone as a friend. They may not be assigned to you as
that's
a relationship partner.
that's the problem
Now,
though. Like that's the thing that we do now. We take on assignments God ain't never gave us. Like,
well,
oh,
what I'm
I'm a
saying is just that's to share the love of God and keep it moving.
but so here's the problem is you going into a relationship, you going into this thing with, ooh, this person is fine and I want to be with them.
Mm-mm.
So I'm gonna tell them about Christ. That's the wrong motive from the jump.
Yeah, that
You
ain't
should want
enough.
to tell them about Christ because there's a place called hell and they need salvation. Like, but we our
But we just take the
assignments
physical too. We take the physical first when we should take
100%.
we take the physical, and this is a whole thing I think, Jay Hunter, that we're saying is that we're so focused on the outside. God looks at the heart. We should be looking at the heart.
Yes.
We should be, and of course, don't get me wrong. If you're looking to date somebody, that kind of thing, you want to be attracted to them. They want to be that you want them to be appealing to you. But at the same time, if you got somebody that's handsome or beautiful, attractive, and all of that, but you can't have a conversation, you can't talk about God, they don't have purpose for life, they don't have vision for life, that relationship is not going to be long lasting. Period. End of story. Because it has no substance.
And so,
It has no substance. So that's kind of
yes.
what we're talking about. And having a relationship with God. Now, if they don't have a relationship with God, I would think that a person that is a believer would not be heartless, not to share the love of God with that individual.
Right.
But I don't think that we take on these assignments trying to drag people somewhere that they've never experienced or heard of, or whatever the case may be. And you're trying to make that also be relational, or
Right.
it a relationship, because we've done it over and over, time and time again. We make people projects, we make them, assignments, and there really aren't. We have to assess the capacity of the individuals. And that's the whole point that I'm going back to. Assess the
Mm,
capacity of that individual.
yes.
Because if you got to pump and prime a person forever and a day, that's probably not for you.
And also, so also assess your capacity, right? Because
Hmm.
what's happening is a lot of times people want to save people so they can be with them and they can assuage their conscience.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
well, God, they got saved. That man got saved because he trying to sleep with you. That's why he
right.
got saved, right?
And
And
once he
then
get what he want, he gone. Forget Jesus and you
right
too.
after a while, it's like, look, and then now you, oh, he hurt, he left me. No, that's who he always was. And then on the
Yeah,
piece about marriage, the Bible strictly talks about if you marry someone and y'all are both unsaved and then you get saved, you stick because
different scenario.
you're
Yes.
covering covers. You should not be marrying someone as a Christian and they're not a Christian. You should not be marrying them and then talking about you gonna walk with them through. You about to put yourself through fire for no reason
Now,
because
here's the
they're
thing
not
about it
submitted.
too. We're talking about time. So, when we talk about situations, that's a perfect scenario, Jamal, where if you start to date someone, you both, are unsaved, neither, Christ, because there are different scenarios. And you may meet someone who is unsaved and they've not had that experience. Well, time will tell you if this is something worth you investing time in,
Yes.
as far as it relates to sharing the love of God with them. And they become, because sometimes that happens, in the guy or the woman becomes
Yep.
more, intimate with the Lord and develops a relationship on a different level and a deeper level than the person that, actually introduced them to Christ. So there are different scenarios. So I do
Yes.
want to say that we have to allow time to be the factor there, because if in time that person, if you're saying, okay, I'm gonna share God with you and that kind of thing, but I ain't going no further, so we
Right.
ain't trying to make this be something it's not. And then that person begins to develop the relationship and really begins to seek a relationship with God on their own, then that could be an assignment. Right.
Right.
So we have to really analyze, where is it? What's the capacity? What's the opportunity there? But just to off the cuff to say, well, this person is probably assigned to you, I just think we should definitely give it the time and be very, very smart about it, and
Very
be very
careful.
intentional and very careful and very intentional about how we pursue that relationship, whichever direction it is.
Right. And so that's the thing, right? We have to be real careful and we have to be real honest with ourselves because I'm all for it. Like I'm all for sharing Christ. But again, like I've seen it. I mean, I have friends around me for a reason that I'd be like, whoa, one of them is on this chat. That was like, Tiffany told me about a specific, anyways. And, but it sounds good. Like, okay, yeah, you know, this person says they want to know more about God and all this stuff, but you got to have some Jericho wall boundaries around you, because you will start creating this miraculous view in your mind of this. Oh, look, I saw them praying over their food. Man, that ain't nothing. They have to have their own relationship, not because
Hmm.
you're like coaching them and pressuring them, and
Absolutely.
they have to want. It's almost better to kind of separate yourself. We don't need to be going out to no movies. We don't need, because all of that, the heart plays tricks on people,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so
And
you
then as
gotta be
women, we
real
we
careful.
gotta we gotta learn how to be led, right? We gotta learn how to be led, and we have to allow the man to lead, because if you don't allow him, to lead, you'll never know if he can lead. So, I don't care the simplest things, open the doors, initiating the prayer, things of that nature. Now, that don't
Oh my
mean
Lord.
that, he the Pope, but I'm just saying,
I got a
allow
question.
yourself to be led. Yes.
I got a question. So I wrote this in a book, yo. I'm just basically reading the book out of my head. So what is up with
Yeah.
what did Tiffany say something?
Yeah. The whole alignment piece, because them being them being saved is still isn't the end all be all. You got to watch, you got to look at the fruit, you got to check out the capacity.
Hell
What
it
what
has.
we yeah, what we doing, because here again you got sheep and
So
wool and sheep clothing, so it goes both
and
ways. You
and
have to give it time.
even with that, right? This is gonna sound crazy, I guess, maybe, but there's different maturity levels, right?
Yes, absolutely.
There's a different mature, and with maturity, especially in Christ, comes a different level of expectations. And I'm all for grace. I'm all about
Mm-hmm.
grace, but grace ain't second nature for us. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're at a certain level in your walk with Christ and you have certain
Yeah,
expectations, you have to be real careful who you align with and join with, right? Because
absolutely.
you can become so frustrated with this
Mm-hmm.
person that you step outside of your normal character and actually hurt that person.
Yeah.
So you have to, there's this constant fight between, okay, this is where I am spiritually and where I want to go, i.e., capacity, Miss Moody's favorite word, and
Mm-hmm.
looking at this person and say, hey, this person is not where I would want, I want somebody, this person is not at the level that I want to be with, basically,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And it sounds harsh, it sounds all of this stuff, but you have to be realistic, because you're actually setting that person up when you're like, oh yeah, I'm good with that. When that thing is a major red flag for you, but you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, I want to be with somebody so bad, or I want to be with this person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it gets us in trouble. Which this kind of
Miss Tasha, Satan knows how to be religious for a time.
absolutely. And so this is a question from last week, whereas how does the content, especially in the fulcrum of frustration, suggest the mishandling of frustration and how we can intrude and wreck various areas of our life? So we've talked about friendship.
Frustration, frustration, you will allow yourself to do more if you mismanage your frustration, to step outside of your own values and your own. So
What are some
that's
of
what,
those areas of our life that we can totally wreak
oh,
havoc in, that it can intrude, and the frustrations can really just throw us all off balance? What are some of those areas?
so let's can I use a husband and a wife?
Okay.
I've stated this, I think, on the previous podcast. So I believe women want, if you give a woman this at the basic level, you're batting 80%.
Hmm.
Intentional engagement,
Okay.
men, affirmation, affirming a man is like, that's like a drug we can't get enough of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you're married and let's say I wake up in the morning, bright and early, 4 o'clock, ready to go to work, you know, I get I get the kids' lunch ready for school, so my wife doesn't have to worry about it. And the first thing I hear from her is, I told you to take the trash out yesterday. You didn't even take that out. And do you know the car is still messed up? It needs to get this and that and that. And it's just this. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just me. I'm just a guy like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna get to it. This happened yesterday. And you always got an excuse like, we need this done. I need to get the kids to, okay, I got it. I got it. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I write it down. I go to work. And now Jasmine, I like that name, Jasmine. Ooh, miss me every time. I go to work and Jasmine's like, oh, good morning, Jay. Man, that's a nice suit on you. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
You put that thing together. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, wait, me? But my okay. And so this goes on for
Affirmation.
a couple of weeks. And now
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine is like, man, whew, you did your thing in that presentation. Like, wow, that was amazing
Mm-hmm.
work. You got to show me how
Mm-hmm.
you broke that down. Then I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
hold up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, Jasmine. So now, Jasmine, hey, can we do lunch and you show me how to? And
Mm-hmm.
innocent, Jasmine ain't
Mm-hmm.
doing nothing wrong. She ain't doing
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong. She got her little red lipstick on. That's what she do, right?
Okay.
We go to
Uh-huh.
lunch. I'm sitting there like, yeah, so this is how you break it down. She's like, man, you know what? Nobody has ever showed this to me. And I don't even think the boss knows. That's why you should be running this place. Hold
Mm-hmm.
up.
Yep.
That's a full
All the
360 thing.
yeah, all the affirmation you looking for, you're hungry for it. I mean, you can't hardly, you can't get it down fast enough. You about choking because this is what you desire. And here again, it's these all these different things, and it's subtle. And this is where the misalignment happens. And I think I don't know if I threw this out last week, but this whole A game is important. Knowing our assignment with relationships, knowing our assignment, knowing who we're assigned to and who's assigned to us, being in alignment and agreement with that.
Yes.
And here again, when we have it's these little foxes that spoil the vine. You're exactly right,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
these are areas of frustration, even in dating relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not giving it the attention that it desires or requires, that's on both sides. It's going to wander
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to, drift because here's the thing, those are necessary pieces, but you have to have this foundation where both on both sides you can talk about what the need is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can get back to this mode of communication, um and be able to talk those things through and really clearly identify some of these things.
Hold on
um
though. Don't y'all get mad at Jasmine.
uh-uh.
Jasmine ain't doing nothing wrong. Jasmine just being nice. That man is some a
Yeah.
bunch. I work with a lot of men that don't even want to go home because they
Mm-hmm.
work overtime because they go home and it's a constant beating. So I go to
Mm-hmm.
work, the world beats me up. I come home, I get beat
Mm-hmm.
up. Why
Mm-hmm.
would I want to come home? And the same thing,
Right.
you could flip the script, right, with women where men spend so much time at work,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we talk about it again from the context of good Christian marriage. Your first
Mm-hmm.
ministry is to who? Your spouse,
That's
not
it.
your kids, not your
Yep.
job. If you work in overtime to live, then guess what? Y'all living outside your means. You might want to
Right.
rewrap all of that.
Yeah.
And
Have a
I've said it
conversation,
before.
figure it out. Mm-hmm.
Stop putting your kids first. I'm not going to say get rid of them. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is
He
at
got
some
delivered
point,
since last week. He said, get rid of them kids.
get rid
They can't get
those
rid of the children.
those kids are going to grow up and move on and live their lives. And
Right.
if you have 18 plus years of
Mm-hmm.
not communicating and getting to know each other and dating
Nurturing.
each other, you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
like, who is this person? Because after 18
Absolutely.
years, that's a minimum. You have
Yeah.
changed.
Absolutely.
You
That's the
require
thing.
different things.
Absolutely. Because we have phases of ourselves. And so when you develop that friendship, which is why I thought this was, amazing that this was another entry that had a lengthy entry in the project. friendship is required. It's necessary. It's important. It's needed. Because if you can't have conversation, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what we
You
doing?
failing already.
What we doing? Because you can't talk about the business of your life. You can't talk about the business of your
No.
house. You can't talk about raising your children.
Without feeling like it's gonna be a battle or an argument.
Listen,
Yo,
it's
I'm coming
it's
to you
it's
with the problem. Yeah.
necessary. Absolutely. So I want to take a minute. Any questions for me? Y'all, thank y'all for y'all interaction. Tip, you was on it last week. Um,
Miss
yeah.
Tasha.
Evangeline jumped in there. Jay Hunter. So listen. Any other questions? Uh, we appreciate y'all's engagement. Y'all
Definitely.
kind of helped us to flow the conversation tonight. Look,
I just
it's just conversation.
can I make
Um,
one more point on friendship real quick?
yeah, yeah.
So there's the friendship between the people in the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be mindful of your friendships outside. And
Absolutely.
I'm gonna speak on the ladies right now. If your homegirls are talking bad about your man,
Or your
you
mama.
should you or you should reconsider your homegirls and your homeboys.
Or you have to reassess that relationship.
Yep.
You have
So
to reassess that relationship. And and we can understand that people can have your best interests at heart, but they don't know what they don't know. And this is why it's so important that you don't tell everybody all your business. Because when you're having frustrations, right, you're trying to work through them until you can identify that something is an issue,
yeah,
and even when it's an issue, you have to talk to the right person that knows how to handle
yes, I'm
that
mature.
issue. A mature person that can handle that conversation, because it's not for everybody. And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of relationships get violated by outside people, because they think they know, because one side has given their perspective, when all of it is not known. And so when you're feeling some kind of way, yeah, you the victim, but what else happened?
I got a question
You know
for
what I'm
you.
saying? Yep, boundaries are necessary. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I got a quick question for you, so I know where I stand. How do you how do you feel about each relationship partner knowing who that go-to person is for their respective partner? So, like my wife would have an older woman, married woman that she goes to when it's contentious. I will have an older gentleman, a
Oh,
mentor,
absolutely. I think
right?
you need to know who that person is, because you'll know if that's good ground or not.
Right,
And,
right.
if that person is, conferring or confiding in an individual, I know, I had it when I was married. My ex had it when, he had a person. Now, there may have been, maybe one or two I didn't know about, but the primary person I did, and my primary person he did. So I think it's important. And I think you establish that in a way that it is healthy, and not
Mhm.
as if one or the other feels like, oh, you just running them to tell them all my business, da 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 da.
Right,
And when I think you have to seek counsel, godly counsel, because
yes,
marriage doesn't come with a rule book or a guide. You have to figure it out based on the individual you're in a relationship with.
yes,
And
ma'am.
so some things, it's like peeling back an onion. You may get it on the first layer, it may be the last layer before you find out something.
Very true.
So you have to deal with it as it becomes, knowledge to you, and then how you approach it. It makes all the difference, because it could have been a reason why they held back on that piece. It could have been a
Mhm.
reason why, fear of rejection or whatever the case may have been, or feeling like you weren't mature enough to really handle, an issue on either side or the other. So it's all about really learning that individual. And when you learn the core of a person, it's always going to be some things, because we got life be life, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, having that friendship is the best part of it, because you can talk it through.
You cannot have intimacy without vulnerability. And I think
Cannot.
too many people in relationships, friendships, all the way out, all the way up, they shun vulnerability,
Hmm.
but they want intimacy. And it is
Yeah.
impossible.
I don't want you to know this, but I want you to give me that.
Yeah.
You can't know this, but I want that. And it just doesn't work that way. You have to be vulnerable.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You have to trust the heart of that person. Well, we're at the conclusion of session 2.
Ran over.
We're gonna try to be a little bit better next week. We just get to talking
Yes.
and it goes. But it's
I
been
know it's
another
good.
great session. Thank you all for engaging and being a part of tonight's session. relationship frustrations, and we kind of all over the place, but we'll get back on track next week. We're gonna try to be a little bit more aligned.
Yeah,
But
yes.
here again, it's conversation. We're just talking. So there are no rules, there's no rule book. We're just talking about the various things, and of course, we appreciate your engagement because that helps to, push us along and give us other points. And I think we're both on that wavelength of, certain words will trigger a thought,
Yes.
or
Yes.
and we'll jump on it. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Listen, share this. Will you share this with somebody else? Thank you all. We appreciate you all. Is that Latarsha?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we appreciate
Uh,
you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Listen, we got a few more sessions. So we
yeah.
got some more stuff to talk about. And
Oh,
so we'll be back next
yeah.
week. I think, we might be able to do our own location kind of situation coming up in a few weeks. We'll
Oh,
see. We'll see.
yeah.
We'll
That'd
see.
be.
We'll see.
Oh,
We'll
so
see.
that reference was to the book signing that's coming out. So some of y'all will be receiving some information about that. But yeah, that would be okay.
I'm
All right.
just saying. I'm
I'm just
just
gonna
saying.
sit back.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. So we won't spoil it, but we may be able to have
Yeah.
that. So but anyway, we'll look forward to seeing you here again next Tuesday, same time, same place, Tuesday motivation conversation, right back here for relationship frustrations with Bridget Moody and Jamal Bazil. We'll see you.